Finally, some news! There is going to be a new Doors update in 3 days as of recording this video. Yeah, that's right, just next week we will finally be seeing an end to this Doors content drought, which has been plaguing us for like 3 months now. Okay, so as you may know, each year Doors has one update they are guaranteed to release, and that is the April Fool's event. This event was released both for 2023 and 2024, so I don't see it as being unlikely for it to come out in 2025 as well. And wouldn't you know it, but April 1st is just next week. So, in this update news video, I thought I'd explain everything we know so far about this year's April Fool's update, including some predictions I have for it, as well as the likelihood it will come out. So, with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so just to recap the previous April Fool's event, in 2023 we saw the introduction of Super Hard Mode, a new game mode which, as its name suggests, makes the game a lot more challenging to play. This includes adding unfair entities such as Jeff the Killer, as well as enhancing already difficult puzzles such as the Electrical Room Breaker puzzle. In the 2024 event though, we saw the introduction of the Retro Mode event, which gave the entire hotel a new coat of paint themed around old Roblox. Now, these past two April Fool's events, we have gotten modified versions of the hotel. However, given how the mines were released fairly recently, I have a strong suspicion that this year's event will be themed around that floor rather than the hotel. But before we get into predictions, how do we know this event is even coming out this year? After all, I predicted that Doors would be in the Hunt Mega Edition event even though that wasn't the case. So, how am I sure this event will even happen? Well, there are a few assurances I have which guarantee that Doors will probably have a 2025 April Fool's event. For one, the last two previous years had one of these events, locking the April Fool's update into a sort of a tradition for the game. At this point, players just naturally expect an April Fool's event each year, and I'm pretty sure the developers recognize this too. Additionally, as I have said before, the game is in a bit of a content drought right now. In fact, it's been lacking in updates for the past 3 months, so I think it's likely the developers have at least been doing something behind the scenes regarding this update in that time. Lastly though, and this is expanding on my previous point, last year both the Backdoor and the April Fool's event occurred at the same time. They were pretty much back to back. So if the developers can pull off two completely separate updates occurring right next to each other, I think it is very possible they could do the same without the added stress and restrictions of working on another update at the same time. All in all, given previous trends regarding the April Fool's events, I think it's likely that we'll get one this year. Now, going back to what I said before, I don't think this year's event will be based on the hotel, but rather the mines. However, there are a lot of possibilities for what could be changed to the mines, so let's run down the list of how this event could play out. My first theory is that this year's April Fool's event would be a version of the previous events. However, this time instead of taking place in the hotel, they would occur in the mines. For example, it's possible that Floor 2 could receive a Super Hard Mode game mode for April Fool's Day, which would reintroduce the dreaded Jeff the Killer entity. Taking this route would require minimal building and scripting, as I would imagine assets from the hotel Super Hard Mode would just be re-implemented into the mines. And given how it appears the developers have been working very hard on the new subfloor, something like this where not an ungodly amount of time is put into this year's April Fool's event would be reasonable. Still, even with that as a possibility, I absolutely despise the Hotel Super Hard Mode event, so for one to be implemented into the mines is a thought that makes me scream internally. Still, I could see a Mine Super Hard Mode working out if it ever were implemented as the event, but I just probably wouldn't like it as much as the other possibilities. Of course, there was another April Fool's event that could be revamped to be themed around the mines, instead of the hotel, and that is the 2024 Retro Mode event. If you recall, this game mode not only shortened the hotel, but it also gave the floor an entirely new retro-themed design. I could see something like this coming to Floor 2 in the next event, featuring retro versions of all the iconic Mines entities such as Giggles, Gloombats, and Grumbles. However, I would see this requiring more effort to pull off than a Mines Super Hard mode, as a ton of new retro-themed rooms and entity designs would have to be created. Still, I wouldn't be opposed to something like this being added, as unlike the Super Hard mode event, the Retro mode event was actually fair and didn't rely on RNG, which was a major problem I had with the Jeff the Killer entity specifically from the Super Hard mode event. Now, knowing the developers and how they aren't lazy at all, it is almost guaranteed, or very likely, that an entirely new April Fool's event could be added that has nothing to do with the previous ones. Unfortunately, there's currently no way to tell what the event may be, as based on previous April Fool's events, they tend to vary widely in terms of theme. So, with this in mind, what other features not specific to the previous April Fool's events itself could be added in the April Fool's update that we are able to at least theorize about? Well, for one, I think it's possible that in the 2025 April Fool's event, the voice acting modifier will receive an update to include many of the new entities in the game. Currently, the modifier doesn't work on the Mines entities, like Grumbles, as they didn't exist when the modifier was created, and it even completely broke for some other entities such as El Goblino. However, given how it was made for April Fool's Day, I think it's at least possible for it to gain an update for this next April Fool's Day. If this does happen, I wonder who will voice the new entities, as some pretty popular people were featured in the original voice acting credits. Lastly, though, the final thing I want to mention is the new badge. Obviously, just like how with the previous April Fool's events, they rewarded badges to players who completed them, I assume the same thing will occur with this event. This means that the badge will be coming soon is only going to be available for a limited time. So make sure you all get it prior to the event's removal, as once the badge leaves, it'll be gone forever. Additionally, given how it's possible the event could be very difficult, just like how it was in the Super Hard mode game mode, the badge may be very challenging to obtain. So I'd say if you really want to get this achievement, to dedicate some time on April Fool's Day to just sit down and attempt to get it, as most likely it'll only be available for like a week or something. So, to summarize, April Fool's Day is right around the corner, 3 days as of recording this video. And given how Doors has an April Fool's event every year, I think it's very likely that this year will also have the event. Now, although it is nearly impossible to tell what will be in this update, I theorize it'll focus on the mines rather than on the hotel, and it is somewhat possible it could be a mines version of an already pre-existing April Fool's event, such as Super Hard Mode or Retro Mode. Anyways, that was essentially everything I wanted to go over in this video. Let me know in the comments what you think of this upcoming April Fool's event, and thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.